Okay, so this is the waffle chapter. How may waffle on, ha ha ha. This is the sample piece that I've worked on, which is a segment of the blanket, because there were a couple of videos that I didn't realise I hadn't saved. But anyway, here we are. So this is the sample piece, and we're going to be working on the waffle stitch, which is rows 53 to 60. So I'm just going to show you basically how this comes together, how it's structured, and hopefully through the blog I can help you identify the stitches that you're going to be using, but also when you're working in the reverse, because now we're going to be working on a panel piece. So this is the first section of our panel piece. We're going to be working on the turn, so the blanket's going to go from one side to another, which will be a bit annoying because it is a heavy blanket, but it does mean that you can bite size these pieces, so you can do panel by panel and you can learn from them. So if you want to go, you want to do the waffle on each side, you can. But if you decide that actually I really want to have a go at those mushrooms next, and you're kind of biting your way through. So we've got two complex panels, 1 and 3. They'll be opposite sides to each other. And then 2 and 4 will be the granny square clusters on those, which keeps it quite simple, which means 2 will work up pretty fast, 2 will be a bit slower. And then from there you have your granny square corners, and so on. So hopefully you'll enjoy this bit a bit more, because it just means you haven't got to think waffle stitch the whole way around all 4 sides. You can just break them up so it suits you best. Not only that, working on the turn is the better option for when working a waffle stitch, because you're well, it isn't actually, but it's better for the corners anyway. I actually like doing it front facing because I actually think it's much easier to identify what you're working into, and you can get into a repetitive pattern. But even so, we'll talk about that anyway. So as you can see in our waffle stitch, you can see how we have these squares, which creates the waffle. And on the back, you can see that you can't see it as well, but what you can see are these raised stitches here, and then you've got these in the recess there. So we're going to be working on that. I'm going to come back in a moment and we'll work on our next sample piece. Right, okay. So we are now, bear with me a moment, got the wrong headphones on. Okay, so we are now on row 53. And I thought it'd be really good, so I'm going to bring it in a bit closer because you don't need to see my mouse. Let me put my marker there. So I'm working either side of the stalk, and I've written it into the pattern, but I thought it would be good to show you exactly when I say skip either stitch either side of the stalk. So as you can see there, we've got a stitch there. I'm going to ignore this bit here, and it's this stitch here that I'm talking about there. I'm going to work into the next one. So either stitch, so the ones where I don't have my thumb on are the stitches I want you to skip. And then I'm going to work a double crochet into this one here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and as you can see we're coming up to that one there, and it's 6, and then you'd repeat the same action. So it's 6 that live in here. I don't know if you can see that. And then you're going to skip those stitches either side of the stalk. You're going to ignore the width of the stalk. It's the stitches that sit either side till you finish. So I'm going to quickly do that, and then you can catch me up. Okay, now I've completed that stage, I'm now going to work a turning chain, so turn your work. So you're now on the wrong side facing up, so you can see how it's back to front. So all your 3D stitches. So we're going to do a turning chain of 2. I'm going to work back into that first stitch with a half treble. And we're just going to work across, all of the stitches until the end. So again, I'm going to pause and I'm going to meet you back at the end of this because you don't really need to see me working half trebles all the way to the end. Again, this is a sample piece, so this is just an example. Okay, so we are now back after doing the half treble. We're now able to use our half trebles as part of our front post stitches. So again, to begin with, we're going to do our turning chain, so 1, 2. Then instead of going into our stitch head, we're going to go around our post. So yarn over because you're doing a front post treble, taking your hook behind that post, picking up your wool, pulling through, and then completing your treble as normal. So your post becomes your anchor point. Then you can see how the turn chain is at the back. And then we're going to do back posts. So back posts are... Sorry, I've done that wrong. I've just realised. Have I? No, I haven't. Right, so no, I haven't. Sorry, my brain had a moment then. It always does this in the start. And if you're like me, you will have that same moment. So front post is with the front post in front. Back post is with it behind. So I'm going to take my hook in front of that second post and then go back through the next space so that post sits behind my hook. I have said this in other videos and I do it every time. So I do apologise. I had a bit of a brain wobble, and then you just complete your treble. So everything is 2 back post trebles. So you can see I've done another back post there. And then another front post treble. So it's basically 1 front post treble and then 2. So these will be 2 back posts. And again, I'm going to come off the video and pause the video, and then I'll come back with it finished. But you can see how those raised areas are starting to happen. So when you do your back post, you can see how you get these raised edges, which is the start of your box shape. So it's front post, 2 back post, front post, 2 back post. Everything is in the blog pattern. There are examples there, and we have some illustrations in order to help you navigate through. But I think the easiest part is this section, row 1, because it's a row 2 pattern repeat. The next row after this is where I think most people find it difficult. But once you get it, once you're able to identify the anatomy of your stitches, it's much easier for you to progress. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause here, and then I'm going to come back, and then we'll do the row behind, and we'll go through a bit of a identifying our stitches and stitch placement. But once you get it, I know you'll get it. You won't ever forget this. Okay, so now I've come to the reverse side of our blanket, or the wrong side. So you can see now from the front, we've got the base for our boxes there. Let's turn it round. And now we're going to be working into our stitch. Now, if you've added, so this is my biggest concern really for anybody that's following a pattern. If you've added in stitches and you end up being on the wrong count in accordance with the pattern that's been written, I would like to feel that I've given you enough information for you to be able to look at what you've made from the reverse and go, even though I've made a bit of a whoopsie there, a bit of an issue with the wrong stitch being finished with, you know how to recover from it, but you also know how to adapt and look at your stitches and go, yes, but even though the pattern says that and I've gone slightly off, I know how to recover it because I know that that stitch there is the front post treble on the reverse. So that means I have to put a back post treble into that. Or you finished on the back post treble on the reverse. So that would be the reverse being the front facing side. And now you're like, but that really, the pattern tells me I should be doing a front post. But really what I should be doing is a half treble. So I'm hoping that the information I give you now will make you think a little bit more logically. Because sometimes we can be so hardened to and pedantic in the way in which we follow patterns. And in some cases we should be. But in some cases we can get away with it a little bit more. Everybody's got the sneezes. I think it's the pollen and different things. So in this case, I have made a mistake. But this is a sample piece, so it doesn't really matter. And I've done it on purpose because I wanted to make sure that I could show you should you go wrong. So my front post ended here and it was all nice and equal. But then I got to here and I've only got 2 stitches left. So I carried on with the same kind of procedure, which was a back post and then a front post. So no, it doesn't give me the box that I want, but I'm not really bothered because this is a sample piece, so it doesn't really matter. But should you happen to do the same thing, and you're thinking, but I need to get, 4 in there, you don't want to add a new stitch in because that'll make your blanket go off. And we need to keep our straight lines. So in accordance with keeping everything uniform, I'm just going to go, right, okay, I'm just going to deal with it this way. So knowing that I have a front post and a back post there, when I reverse this, I'm going to do a back post treble into there and a half treble here, and then my back, and then continue as normal. So let's just get my hand in place. And it's looking at things like that are going to help you in the long run. So should you decide to make your own designs, or you just want to add a waffle to a blanket pattern that you think feeling a bit like you want to add something to it, but you don't have the right amount of stitches in accordance with the fact that it's a 3-stitch repeat really. So say for instance your chains or your total stitches do not give you the 3 times table, then you might not be able to do it. So in this case, let's just do our turning chain, and in this situation it is a back post, so we're going to go. The only trouble is when you're doing these ones on this side, it does get a bit fiddly, so it does turn itself around. So I'm just going to go around it as a front post, to be honest, because I've got my turning chain on the front, so it won't matter. Now on this side the pattern goes like this. It goes back post treble, and then it goes half treble into the stitch heads, and then it goes back post treble. And that gives you your flat edge, because once you start working back into your stitch heads, you're flattening it out the smoothness of the blanket, like you would if you were doing, you know, that. It just stays smooth because everything goes into the stitch head. When you start working into back posts and front posts, obviously you get a raised texture. So as soon as you put in a smooth, a stitch into a stitch head, it becomes smooth again. So half treble there. So this is where I've gone wrong, and then I'm going to do my back post treble there. So we'll turn it round and we'll have a look. So you can see how that just works neatly again. And it still carries on the same process, but it shouldn't be really that noticeable because it's on the edge. So let's go back. So this is as the pattern goes. So back post treble, and then you go. So these ones here that are raised, you can see how your front post trebles on the reverse are kind of inset. And then the ones that were the back post on the reverse are raised. They're over the stitch heads. So you go into half trebles into those, like so. Then you can feel your back post there, so you know that's your front post. So you're going to do a back post there to continue that line, and then half treble into these ones, like so. And you continue that recess. So you can feel the edge there. Again, it's very sensory. Use your fingers to help guide you, not just your eyes, because your hands can also, your fingers can feel the difference, like it's braille almost. Half treble into there. Okay. And then back post around that one, because I can feel the bump. This one's a bit smoother on the top, so I know that's my 2 half trebles. And then back post around there. So I'm going to pause here, and then we'll work back on the front in a second. Okay, so now we've come back, and you can see how those half trebles have created this lovely smooth area. It gives us that recess for the box. So that is that's your 2 patterns. So your 2 rows. So you have your front post to begin with, and your back, and then you do the second row, which is again all in the blog. So the pattern after this is the row after this will be the first row that we did here, which is our back post, 1 back post treble, and then 2 back post trebles. That then will create that box, because it will pull those stitches forward, and it will give you that recess, that square recess, whereas now it's quite open. So there's lots of things you can do with this. If you wanted to continue this row, you could, to give you those lines. If you know, you can create all these different textures, but this is the waffle texture. So we're going to do another 2 rows of this, and then one last row 1 repeat here, and then we're going to finish with a half treble. So again, I'm going to finish here for you, and then we'll come back to our the framework of our mushroom row, which will be an entirely complete, will be a complete video on its own. And that's one's quite exciting, because that is actually my own stitch method. So I'm really hoping that you can follow along, and it will be easy enough for you to do. It is fiddly, do not get me wrong. Now if you want to try this on a sample piece, the next row, I would probably suggest that you start making a sample piece like me, not necessarily this, just a smooth one, just so you can work into it and you can practice it before you go onto your blanket, because your blanket's quite heavy. So get yourself your head around these stitches where you can. And that way, when you come to put it on your blanket, you're going to have a lot more dexterity. You're going to feel a lot more comfortable doing it, and it's not going to be as frustrating. If you make mistakes, you can always photograph them to me and send them via our email system, or you can join our online app, which is on Spaces Wix. If you go to our website, you will notice that there is a Join Our app. Go there and you can log on, create your own account, log on, and you'll be able to get access to blogs quite easily without having to go to a computer. And there you can chat on each blog, you can create a conversation, and you can add your photographs in. And if you need my help, or Megan's, or anybody's for that matter, anybody that's doing it will converse with you. So yeah, there you go, my lovelies. And we'll call it a day on this particular chapter. I shall get more editing to do, and then we'll sort all the other ones out. Lovely.